like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given as a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given as a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Living Hope Agency call. Again, like I talked about in the intro, I want to run through some training that I was given from a mentor many, many years ago in a couple of different businesses, something that has been something that I've carried forth into multiple businesses, because I always have two goals for anybody that wants to be, I guess, a rising star in this business. And, number one, it's I want to help develop you as a person. Okay. And that's why we're not just focused on business, we're focused on discipline in different areas, growing overall. We think about awareness, like where is it that I need to grow? We talk about growing our desire. Do you really want it? And what's holding you back from getting it? I talk to people about what's their intention, really developing clarity on what they want, having a clear vision, clear intention of why they're doing what they're doing, helping people improve their belief, because once their intention is there and they know what they want to do, what's your belief level to actually achieving it, and really helping people learn how to focus. So we're talking about number one, how to develop you as a person, but number two, we need to help you make money in this business. And our goal is that everybody who joins us and really plugs in, they should be able to help between 15 to 20 families in a month. And there's no reason why every single person on this call, every single person in this group, that you shouldn't be able to do that. And for some people in this group, you hear 15 to 20 families in a month, and that's a bad month. So we need to set goals to cater to where you're at. But the minimum for everybody who is serious about this business, it really should be 15 to 20 families in a month. And this month right now, we're already in it, March. This can be a breakout month for everybody in this group. It's a 5-week month. So you have an opportunity to have 5 weeks worth of opportunities to set a new high score for yourself. And you can be making more money this month than any month ever before if you learn how to take it seriously. New month. And guess what? Everything from last month, it doesn't matter. The key is focusing on where we want to go this month and leaving really last month in the past. Okay. So the main thing that I want to talk about today, and this is something that, again, I learned from a mentor of mine in a couple of different businesses. It's this practice called knowing the score. Okay, and you guys will hear me talk about this whole call, knowing the score. And it's one of the most important concepts that I've personally ever learned in business. Knowing the score can also be defined as, knowing your intention and what it's going to take to get there. Clarifying obviously what you want, what exactly you want, and, the focus behind it. I'm sure that everybody on here has heard the saying, you can't hit a target that you can't see. Okay, you would never get into a car and start driving with no destination. Yet a lot of people join this business and they go through life in their business saying, well, I'm just going to make more dials this month than last month. I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm going to hit this giant goal. Yet they don't have any score chart, any way of keeping track to know if they're actually going to make it happen. So I always like to bring it back to sports. I played sports in high school. I try to follow sports, but, I'm too busy writing business here to worry about who won the Super Bowl. But I always like the sports analogies. So, I always ask the question, and my mentor asked me the question, have you ever seen any type of a competitive sport where nobody kept track of the score? Like you just turn on ESPN and you watch a game where no one's keeping track of the score. That doesn't happen. That would be one of the most boring things to watch if there was no score. That doesn't happen. And the most important thing in any game that you're playing is the score. That's it, period. So, Michael Jordan, arguably one of the greatest of all time, when he was in his prime, if there was 2 minutes left in the game, you would never see him messing around and having no idea what the score is. Michael Jordan's not just dribbling up and down the court, passing the ball with no intention. That would be ridiculous. If you think about the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, he's one of my favorites. I don't care what team he plays for. I just think he's great. But I can guarantee that anytime that he was down in the fourth quarter, he knew exactly how many points he needed at the end of the game. He knew who had the ball, what exactly he needed to do, and what the score of the game was. That's why in any sport, You see, a team, they start to do riskier plays at the end of the game because they know they have to score, because if they don't score, then they don't win the game. They can't win the game. They can't take it in overtime, and they guarantee that they're done. They know exactly how many points they need. They know specifically what they need to do in order to win the game, and they make a plan and they execute. So we can think about our business. Every single one of us needs to know the score in our business so we know what to do, so we can figure out if we're going to have a good month or we can have a bad month. And to take it up a notch, not just for those who are managers, it's not just enough to know the score of your own personal business, because you aren't just getting paid for your effort as a manager, you're also getting paid from a percentage of your team's effort. So it's not just about knowing the score of your business, but are you teaching other people how to know the score of their business? Because the goal is duplication. So even if you know the score of your business perfectly, but your agents are running around like idiots and they have no idea, it's never going to grow to the level that you want it to. And I've had seasons where I've done amazing at knowing what's going on in the people's businesses, and I've had seasons where I just focused on myself and I paid for it. So every time that we teach these principles, these skills, these word tracks, the goal is to teach through you. So you guys can be leaders of leaders. So you can start teaching this to other people as you start to grow. Because if everyone on your team was doing what you're doing, we could have an army of champions if people were doing the right things in a duplicatable level. All right, so we're going to break this down a little bit further when it comes to knowing the score. Again, in football, we talk about statistics. In football, you got rushing yards, passing yards, tackles. Those are the statistics. But again, it doesn't really matter what the statistics are. You could have thrown 10 touchdowns, but what was the final score? The final score determines who wins and who loses. So in this business, we have to ask, what's the final score in our business? It's the volume that we do. It's the profit that we make. It's the number of families that we help. It's the premium that we issue. It's how much money did you make? You can have great statistics and say, hey, dude, I did 1,000 dials today. But how many appointments did you actually sit on? Well, you could have sat on every single appointment, but if you're not making sales and you're not helping families, I hate to break it to you, but it means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. I remember hearing this from my mentor who first taught me this concept of knowing the score. He told me about this article he was reading, and the article talked about this Harvard business graduate. Okay, and this Harvard business graduate, he had raised something like $150 million for this company. And they built this giant home office with big conference rooms. They had all the fun ping pong tables. They had all these press releases talking about how great the company was going to be. And then a year later, the company goes bankrupt. And then he's telling me about this interview that he watches with the CEO. And he tells me about the most ridiculous thing that he heard. And he says, this Harvard business graduate doesn't understand the most basic principles of business. The guy in the interview, he's like, we kicked ass in everything that we did. We did everything right as a company, except for one thing, one department. That was our downfall. The department was sales. And like my mentor who was telling me this, he's listening to this interview going like, oh, what the heck are you talking about? Like, that's the only thing that matters. How can you say you did everything right? If you're not creating sales, you're not in business. That's it, period. It doesn't matter how many people we put into class. It doesn't matter how many people attend these team calls. It doesn't matter how many people we have conversations with. If agents are not helping families and they're not profitable, nothing else matters. And we have to understand where we're at with this company and where we're at with the opportunity that we have here in front of us. Family First Life will issue $1 billion in premium this year. We have an opportunity to ride that wave. Do we understand that? I bet you Sean Mike's keeping score. Do we realize that we have families, we have staff, we have people that are counting on us to make this work, especially if we're doing this full time? And I think it's really just important to know that your family and your staff, whoever it is, they're trusting you and they're believing in you to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. Your staff, if you're a manager, to make sure they have a job next month. Your family to make sure they have groceries next month. I believe in, lots of people on this call. I don't know you all, but I do believe that anybody can do it if they put in the work. I believe in this opportunity so much, it's honestly disgusting for the right person with the right work ethic. And I would take some of the people that we have in our team and our group over any other group in the company. And I'm not kidding about that. Even some of the people I would take, maybe they haven't reached their full potential yet. None of us have, but I'd take you over the top producer in the company, just because I know where you're at and I also know where you're going. So I don't just see people for where they're at. I try to see them for where they're going, because if I just saw people for where they're at, I'd be a bad leader. I try to see the vision of people in this group hitting Hall of Fame. I try to see the vision of people in this group getting their own integrity deals. I even see, the vision of some people in this group helping your agents hit Hall of Fame and you helping your agents get integrity deals. I don't just see this group as a group of future Hall of Famers. Like, what we should see ourselves at is like a group of Hall of Fame creators. That's the mindset. So in order to get on that level, it's about execution. It's about executing the daily actions. It's all about execution. And a very quick side note, if you're listening to this and you have absolutely no idea how many issued policies you or how many issued policy your team is doing on a weekly or a monthly basis, or you're not seeking out that information to figure it out, you're not going to make it. At a certain point, you have to stop making excuses after you've been here long enough. You can ask your manager. If you don't have access to that information, we put out recognition images once a week. I have access to everybody's numbers pretty much at all time, at least 1 week behind. So your manager can provide you that data. They can add you to any report to help you see exactly where your team's at, where you're at on a weekly and a monthly basis. If you're going to take this seriously, we can't be lazy and just not care about where we're at. Michael Jordan knew the score at all times. Tiger Woods knows how many strokes behind he is if he's going to win the Masters. Tom Brady knows how many touchdowns if he needs to do a 2-point conversion in overtime to win the game. Champions know the score at all time. So a few things to go over before we talk about knowing the score. Again, none of this is my information. This is all stuff. I'm reading some notes from an old mentor of mine. And one of the people that he had me study early in my career is a guy named Napoleon Hill. Anybody who knows Napoleon Hill, he was mentored by a guy named Andrew Carnegie, who at one point was the richest man in the world, worth hundreds of billions of dollars back at the turn of the century, which that would be worth like $1 trillion right now. And Napoleon Hill learned from him, that you become what you think about. And I'm not trying to make this too esoteric, but he said, what the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe it can achieve. So I'll go kind of deep here, just because it's all going to come very practical here in a second. So if you ask the question, how do we think? How do we think in our mind? How do we know if we're thinking the right thoughts? When you think, we think in the form of pictures. We think in the form of images, not words. We don't think in words. We think in pictures. So if I say something ridiculous like pink elephant, you can't help but picture a pink elephant. So when I say at the end of this month, what comes to the mind? Do you have a picture? Like, what image comes to your mind? Where are you at? Because you become what you think about most of the time. What image is in your brain? So when you start to understand how your mind works, it's not really that crazy of a game. So here's how it works. Based on the premise that you become what you think about most of the time, how can we make our business grow? How can we make more money and shift our focus and shift our attitude? And if this is all true, how do we think about our business growing? What do we think about when we think about our business growing? Here we go. You have to create an image that represents your business growing. It's as simple as that. And what's the simplest way to represent your business growing? It's with a graph. Okay, a very, very simple graph. So I'm just going to give you guys a very, very basic example of a graph here. So on one part of the graph, what do we have? We have time. On the other part, we have results. So on the x-axis, time, on the y-axis, results. And you set a goal for yourself. You set a goal in the top right corner. What is that goal for you over the course of the month, the week, the day? This could be how many families you help for the month. This could be how many dials you do for the day, how many appointments you sit on. But the goal is to have a graph, and the goal is to have something to track it with. Okay, so follow me here for just a second. So you have on the x-axis time, on the y-axis results. And if you start in the bottom left corner and you plot a corner up to the top right, you can draw a line between the 2 points. You can track your progress every day. This straight line would obviously be your perfect path, but we know it's not going to be perfect. And then we can kind of input the results as we go. So I'll give you guys an example. This was my February. I had a goal to help 40 families. We had a baby, here on February 20th. So you can see kind of where my numbers went stagnant. And, I had a goal to get to 40 families. In my first week, I helped 8 families. And then I had a big second week, which brought me up to 24 families. Then we had a baby. I didn't help any families. And then I helped just 1 or 2 families, which brought me to 27. So my goal was 40, but I only hit 27. So I knew exactly what I was doing, where I was going, why I was behind, why I was not. Okay. So again, that straight line would be the perfect path, but we know it's not going to be perfect. So as I'm going through my month, my week, whatever I'm tracking, sometimes I have 5, 6 graphs up on a whiteboard. Sometimes in a notebook, it doesn't matter. I can track how many appointments, it's whatever you want to grow. Do you want your appointment count to grow? Track it. Set a goal for it. Do you want your issue paid to grow? Track it. Do you want how many people you put into class to grow and you have a goal? Track it. So, for me, what we track, we can see what's actually happening. So it's the first thing that I look at in the morning, and I try to just sit there and quickly feel good about the graph going up. Okay. Now this might sound a little esoteric, but when I'm going through the day, I kind of visualize the graph going up, because again, you become what you think about. And if you think about the graph growing and you become obsessed about it, your body will pretty much eventually follow the actions and make it grow. And if you have no graph and you have no image, you become what you think about. So if you think about nothing, you get nothing. If you don't think about growing, you're not going to grow. We have thoughts and we have words. Our thoughts are powerful, but when I speak out loud and I tell others and I say, hey, Josh, my goal is to do 40 families this month, and I'm going to track it, and I'm going to send a picture to you in this text message every day to show you my progress. That makes it real. And now I'm not just accountable to what I've, set in my mind, but I'm accountable to what I told somebody else. I've said it out loud. And I'm the kind of person that I'm really big on integrity. So I have so many different areas in my life that are not where I want them to be, but best believe that all of those areas that are not where I want them to be, I haven't made a verbal commitment out loud to somebody else. If I've made a verbal commitment out loud to somebody else, I get so embarrassed by not doing what I said I'm going to do. So if I'm not going to do it, I won't say it. So I'm not perfect. I have plenty of areas that I need crazy amount of work in my life. But if I don't have it, I haven't made the goal and I haven't said it out loud to somebody else. So if I lack integrity, it just means I'm not going to do what I say I'm going to do. So when it came to business, I just decided to put that out there because it was important to me. So all that we're doing is we're programming our minds rather than letting, whatever society and social media, it's flowing into our minds, program it for us. We just choose what we want to be thinking about this month and what we're going to be focusing on so we can move the needle in our own life. Focus is a very, very powerful thing. Again, I try not to be the super esoteric guy, but I think back to how my mentor taught me all of these different analogies that helped me really understand focus and different things. He talked about, think about the sun for a second. The sun has unlimited energy stored up in it. You guys also have unlimited energy stored up in you, whatever you believe in. But what happens if you take a magnifying glass and you focus the sun's energy? I can go outside and I can get a suntan, or I can, burn an anthill with a magnifying glass. I can set a piece of wood on fire. Imagine if you learned how to focus, your results can be like that magnifying glass. If you have that clear intention, if you have that clear plan, if you believe that this is real, that's possible, and you actually focus. So my favorite part now is setting yourself up to win. Okay, setting yourself up to win. One of the cheat codes to business is if you make rules for yourself and you follow them. Okay, you make rules for yourself. It's your business. It's your life. There's this really simple saying my mentor taught me. He says, business is a game and I make the rules. My business is a game and I make the rules. And if I make the rules for myself that make it easier for myself to win, it's going to be a fun game. So I make rules for myself so I can make it easier for myself to win. So follow me as I kind of explain this concept here. Imagine you're playing a game of golf, okay? And you're playing against Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods is obviously one of the best to ever do it, and you suck at golf. But imagine you got to play golf versus him, but you got to make all the rules. If I wanted to win and beat Tiger Woods and I got to make the rules, I would make some ridiculous rules. I would say that he has to tee off at the blue tees and he's got to use his putter for the entire time. And anytime he putts, he has to use his driver because I make the rules. Your business is a game and you make the rules. So if I'm going to make the rules for myself to win, I need to make sure that also the rules are not so easy that I win without putting in any effort. It's like playing a video game. If you guys ever played, Madden or any NBA, you got beginner mode, you got legendary mode. If you play on beginner mode, you're going to crush it and you're going to win over and over and over again, but it gets boring. You don't get any better. And again, if your business is a game and you make the rules, you also have to have standards for yourself. So it's not so easy that you don't even have to try to really, win. So we don't want to play on beginner. You guys got to know what level you're at and play at that level. So this is super important. The rules that you set for yourself, they have to be based on quantifiable results. Okay, quantifiable results. So what I mean by that, a bad rule would be, the rule is I'm going to build my business every day. That's not a rule. How do you quantify if I built my business today? How do you know if you actually did? So we have to make the rules easy enough that you can follow them, but not so easy that you don't have to try. If they're quantifiable, a quantifiable rule would be, I'm going to help 3 families a day. I'm going to do 10 appointments a day or $1,000 a day, no matter what. That's a quantifiable rule. And it can be activity, because we know the activity will lead to a result. I'm going to dial the phone this many times on dial day, no matter what. I'm going to get to 50 no's today. I'm going to have 15 appointments minimum. I'm going to help 10 families this week. I'm going to help 2 to 3 families per day. So we can use our graph to track whatever those results are. You can pick a goal. It doesn't have to be 40 families in a month. It could just be, I can't sit down in the chair and dial. And the most dials I've ever done is 250 in a day. I'm going to do 1,000. I'm going to do it every day. So we can use our graph to track the results. And again, we can use those same graphs to track our activity over a week or over a month. And it's really crazy when you do more than one graph. It's extra work, but if you want to grow, this is what I've done and what a lot of other people have done. If you do an activity graph and you do a results graph and you do your dials, your appointments, how many leads you bought, like whatever that activity is, watch how your results graph and your activity graph like work together. And you'll notice that the days where you didn't do a lot of activity, your results wasn't that great either. So again, even if we are tracking our activity, we can't confuse activity with productivity. Okay. I think that's a big note to take. Don't confuse activity with productivity. If the graph's result at the end is issued policies and families helped, that's good. If the graph's not going up, but you're following your rules, then you've confused activity with productivity. Okay. And this is where the rubber meets the road, because you can set all these rules for yourself and it will help. But I just want to be totally honest. None of this matters if you don't get results. None of it. I've seen people that are busy in this business. They do 7 to 10 appointments every day. They're on live dials every day, but for some reason, their results graph is not going up. They're doing the activity, but the results are not happening. And they book crappy appointments. Maybe they deal with no-shows. They don't get better with each appointment through feedback. They just kind of keep banging their head against the wall, working their butt off, but they're not actually improving their skill. And then here's the sad, honest truth. There are people who are doing less activity than that person who are getting better results. There's people doing less activity, getting better results. And I'm sorry to say, but the person that is getting the sales is the person who's doing better, even if the activity is less. So I need to make sure this distinction is super clear. The activity leads to the results. Doing the activity can lead to better numbers. It can. Doesn't mean it always will. Doesn't mean that you always will, because you're the X factor. Anyone can do the activity, but if you don't get better through the activity, it doesn't mean it's a guarantee to lead to better numbers. In the beginning, we talk about this concept, you make up in numbers what you lack in skill. Okay, you make up in numbers what you lack in skill. If I'm only willing to dial the phone 100 times, but Josh is willing to dial the phone 1,000 times, over a long period of time, the data says that probably Josh will do better than me because he's made up in numbers what he lacked in skill. Even if I close 9 out of 10, but if Josh closes 1 out of 10 and he does 1,000 and I do 100, then he's going to end up closing 10 clients where I close 9. He's going to do more work. So in the beginning, you make up in numbers what you lack in skill. But here's the honest truth. Later on, you can make up in skill what you lack in numbers. You can make up in skill what you lack in numbers. You get really good at this, it doesn't matter. You could sit there and say, I work so much harder than Jamie. Well, if I close 9 out of 10 and you dial all week long and don't get any sales, I win. That's the honest truth. I could have 10 appointments and close 9. And you can work your butt off all month, harder than me, longer than me. But if you're not getting sales, it doesn't matter. So we can't confuse any of that. It all involves us growing in our skill. It all involves us improving our results. The honest truth is that it does not matter how hard you work. It matters the results you get. Are you helping families, and are you getting deposits or not? So if the activity is not producing profits, that means we have to change the activity. We have to get back with our manager and we have to reevaluate our strategy. We have to change the rules to win. Because the only productive thing that we do in this business is making sales, recruiting agents, and helping new agents make sales. Those results, and only those three things, will determine the final score. Everything else is a statistic that will help us get to the final score. I hope that makes sense. You can have a great game statistic-wise, and you can still lose the game. Plenty of us have had weeks like that. Lockhart and I were talking this morning. I had 17 appointments, brand new $90 mortgage leads appointments on Thursday. I got no-showed by 9 of them and only helped 2 families. I woke up that morning thinking I got 17 $100 lead appointments. I'm going to have a 20 family day. And guess what? I got no-showed by over half of them. And of the ones I did talk to, I only helped 2. So statistic-wise, I booked 17 appointments. It was a great, great statistic day, but I still lost the game. And we all have weeks like that. And then there's weeks where I can't tell you how many times where I've had the worst dial day ever and booked 5, 6, 7 appointments and went out and had one of my best weeks on less appointments. The numbers will help. The numbers always help put favor, in your corner. But results are all that matters. So we all have weeks like that. And the goal is just to brush yourself off every week, whether it was good or bad, and run it up again. And if you recruit people that never got started and never sell a policy, that's also a confusing activity with productivity. We don't make money just to sign someone up. There's no sign-up fee. We make money when we help someone make money. That's one of the coolest parts about this business, is that it's truly not rocket science. We're calling leads that are requesting info, and then we're facilitating their request. Our job's not to mess it up. And the honest truth is there's much more complicated sales jobs out there than this. It's not rocket science. There's people out there literally selling jet fuel. Like that's not our job. And so when you guys really understand all of this, it comes down to 2 things. Number 1 is going to be do it more. And number 2 is going to be do it better. Simple as that. Do it more, do it better. What does it mean? First, we have to define like, what is it? It are the rules, the standards, the minimums, the activities that you set for yourself. So do it more and do it better. If the activity leads to a quantifiable result, then again, I'm going to make the rules so I can win in business. And doing it more, now you have to get better at doing it. You have to treat it like a professional. Your clients, you help your clients, and you're going to have, the confidence that so what am I trying to say? If you help your clients with the confidence of a Hall of Fame producer, even when you're not, like that's the idea. You talk to prospective agents with the confidence of an integrity partner, even though you're not. You need to start thinking of yourself on a higher level than you are and start acting like it. And even if you're not there yet, like let's get there. Like it's time to do it better. There's no reason why everybody can't make a quantum leap. And the one last thing that I'll say before we jump off of here is that you need to make sure you focus on this. When you're looking at your graph and you're on day 1, as much as your focus and your energy should be on the goal at the end of the graph, your goal should be, what's my goal each day? What's my goal each week? What's my specific goal today? The next logical step. So like if my goal is 40 families, I'm not just sitting there focusing on 40 families. I'm focusing on, can I help 2 today? I help 2 families today, 2 families today, 2 families today. And some days I'll help 7 families, and some days I'll help no families. The next logical step, how can I move the needle forward today? So there's some focused on the end goal, but most of the focus is in knowing what the next logical step is today to get back on track, to get the momentum cycle working in my direction. So I know where I'm going. I know that if I'm driving in the car and I have, start of Detroit and I want to drive to Seattle, and I type it into the GPS and when I look at the GPS, I know that the first thing I need to do is turn out of my neighborhood and get on the freeway, and then follow the freeway until I need to merge, and then so on and so forth. I'm focused on the next logical step. I'm not focused on Seattle. I'm focused on, all right, let's get on I-96 and let's go sell, and whatever that is. Because even if I know where I'm going and I miss the next step, I get lost, I get thrown off track, and I have to figure out how to get back there. If I don't get on the freeway, I'm never going to get to Seattle. So you have to know where you're going, but put all of your focus in the image on the next logical step. So again, we become what we think about most of the time. We think in the form of images. With no image, there's no growth. Your business is a game. You make the rules, know the score, write out the score, and track it in the form of a graph. Families helped and profit is the name of the game. Your business is the game. You need to know the score. You need to make the rules. The rules need to be quantifiable with results and activity. Don't confuse your activity with your productivity. Don't focus on the end result. Focus on the next logical step. We set really, really big goals a lot of the time, but we're delusional because we don't understand the activity that's required to hit that specific number. We have to be humble enough to set a realistic goal just out of your comfort zone. To set a realistic goal just out of your comfort zone. There's something I had mentioned before called the momentum cycle. The momentum cycle, it's, if you think of a circle, it's belief, potential, action, results. Belief, potential, action, results. If I have really, really positive belief, I have high potential energy that I'm going to do something. If I have high potential energy, I'm going to take big actions. If I take big actions, most likely it's going to lead to big results. Big results reinforces positive belief, and that momentum cycle gets moving. And when it gets moving, it's really hard to stop it. But also it can go the opposite direction. I call this one the doom loop, or Andrew Taylor coined the doom loop, when the negative momentum cycle takes over and you have one bad week, and that leads to lower belief, lower confidence, lower potential energy, lower action, lower results. And now you're just stuck in this negative loop. And in order for you to get out of it, like, we have to totally stop everything that we're doing, reverse the direction, and get a positive result to be able to, with the little win, by setting up a rule for yourself. Like, I'm going to sit here in this chair and I'm going to do 1,000 dials today. And whether you got the result or not, you did what you said you were going to do. Little win. That little win, a little bit more belief, a little bit more potential, a little bit more action, a little bit more results. And you can get the momentum cycle working in your direction. So basically, this is just a game of creating little wins for yourself and finding momentum, little daily wins. So if you're coming off of a hard month, a hard week, a hard day, what can you commit to that's just outside of your comfort zone, that's big enough that you can, it's worthy, but it's small enough that you know that you can do it. It just takes a little bit of effort. And that little win gives you that little bit of extra confidence, that gives you that little bit of extra potential and action and results. And then now you can set a bigger one. Now it goes from, I'm just going to hit the phone 1,000 times today, to I'm going to set 10 appointments, to, well, I set my 10 appointments. Well, I'm going to help 2 to 3 families today. Every day we can create momentum. The momentum cycle, again, it can work before us, it can work against us. And when the ball is rolling, it's very, very hard to stop. So last couple of things as we land this, it's not just about you. If you're building the team, it's about others, getting other people to do this as well. If you build the people will build the business. You don't need to focus on every single person you bring in. Focus on a few. All you need is a few good people. Find them, mold them, create them. They want to be molded. I promise you that. If you're one of those people that wants to be molded, reach out. I'm happy to help. Happy to help you figure out what's holding you back to help you get to the next level. Guys, if you have questions, I'm always here. Always willing to share. Open book, completely transparent. So I hope everybody has a great night. We're going to close this out. Would love to see you in Greenville at our lock-in. That's where we're going to dig even deeper into a lot of this stuff. So I appreciate y'all. Hope everybody has an amazing night. We'll talk to y'all next time. Peace out, everybody.